It was supposed to be a lavish anniversary dinner, until I heard, "Sorry, you're not invited. Leave." Then they actually called security and said, "Get this beggar out." So I walked away, quietly canceled every payment, trip, and party, about $62,000 worth. Minutes later, my phone started blowing up with 36 missed calls, and then someone showed up at my door. I showed up at my parents' place and... This isn't just a story about money. It's about a decade of giving, a lifetime of being overlooked, and one brutal night that shattered everything I thought I knew about family. Imagine pouring your heart and your bank account into people you love, only to be branded a beggar and thrown out of a party you paid for. That night, everything changed. Growing up, my home felt less like a sanctuary and more like a stage where I was always a background extra. My older sister, Heather, was the dazzling star, blonde, beautiful, celebrated for every effortless achievement. Then there was Eric, my younger brother, the cherished baby who could do no wrong, despite a trail of trouble. And me? I was Mackenzie, the responsible middle child, always striving, always earning, always trying to win the approval that flowed so freely to them. When I brought home straight A's, my mom would simply say, "That's expected of you, Mackenzie." When I won the state math competition, my dad just nodded and asked if I could tutor Eric. It quickly became clear I had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. This pattern only deepened as we got older. While my parents lavishly funded Heather's private university education, where she barely scraped by, I worked 2 jobs to cover my partial scholarship at a state school. When I graduated with honors in finance, no one showed up. There was a family emergency that day. Eric needed help moving into his new apartment. But I was tenacious. I clawed my way up from the bottom of a financial advisory firm, logging 70-hour weeks. Within 5 years, I'd built a client base that allowed me to open my own practice. By 30, specializing in tech investments in booming Seattle, I was making more money than I'd ever dreamed. And that's when the calls started. More frequent, more urgent. "Mackenzie, your father and I are struggling with the mortgage since he cut back his hours. Could you help just this month?" My mother's voice always carried that unique blend of entitlement and manufactured desperation. Just this month turned into a year, then 2, until I was covering their entire mortgage. Then Eric needed seed money for a food truck he abandoned in 3 months. Then an app that never made it past concept. Then a coffee shop he lost interest in. Heather's wedding? A financial nightmare. As maid of honor, I was expected to fund a bachelorette party in Vegas for 8 women. When I mentioned budget constraints, my mother pulled me aside, her voice dripping with guilt. "Your sister only gets married once. Do you want to ruin her special day because you're being selfish with your money?" The message was crystal clear. My presence was only welcome if my checkbook was open. Last Christmas, I discovered they'd all gone to Aspen for a ski trip when I saw their social media posts. When I called, my mom simply said, "We didn't think you'd be interested. You're always working." Yet, 3 weeks later, Eric called because his car was being repossessed. I paid off the $12,000 loan. 6 months ago, the anniversary party planning began. My mother called, unusually warm and friendly. "Mackenzie, dear, your father and I are celebrating our 40th anniversary. We want a special celebration at Lame. Lame. The most exclusive, expensive restaurant in Seattle." My heart fluttered with a tiny, fragile hope. "That sounds wonderful, Mom." I genuinely meant it. "We'll need your help with the deposit," she continued, that familiar, expectant tone creeping in. "It's $18,000 for the private dining room and initial catering." I swallowed hard. Even for me, that was a hefty sum. But this was it, right? My chance to finally be included. Of course, I can help. Perfect. No further details were ever shared. My questions about guest lists and menus were deflected with, "Don't worry, Mackenzie. You're so busy." 2 weeks before the event, I called Heather to ask what to wear. "Oh," she sounded surprised. "Are you coming?" "I thought you'd be too busy." The old sting, but I brushed it off. "Of course, I'm coming. I paid the deposit." I bought the perfect black Valentino dress and a set of Patek Philippe watches for my parents, a $5,000 gift. I wanted to see their faces when they opened it. Despite everything, a foolish part of me still hoped this time would be different. This time, I'd be welcomed as a daughter, not just a resource. I was so wrong. April 24th dawned, a rare sunny Seattle spring day. I spent extra time getting ready, had my hair and makeup done. The black Valentino fit perfectly. My grandmother's sapphire pendant, the only family heirloom given with unconditional love, sparkled at my throat. The gift box sat on the passenger seat, a silver promise. Lame, with its breathtaking views of Elliott Bay, felt like a movie set. When the hostess at the top floor entrance scrolled through her tablet, her brow furrowed. "Your name, please." "Mackenzie Morgan." "I'm Richard and Elizabeth's daughter." She scrolled again, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, I don't see your name on our list." My smile faltered. There must be a mistake. "I'm their daughter. I actually paid the deposit for this event." The hostess returned with the event coordinator. "Miss Morgan, your name isn't on our approved guest list." My cheeks burned. "That's impossible. I'm their daughter. I paid the $18,000 deposit." She nodded uncomfortably. "Yes, we have record of your payment. However, the final guest list was approved by Mr. and Mrs. Morgan personally, and you're not on it." People were starting to look. I clutched my gift, my composure fraying. "May I speak with my parents?" I watched as family members arrived, Heather avoiding my gaze, Eric looking embarrassed. 15 excruciating minutes later, my parents emerged. My mother, stunning in silver, my father, distinguished in a tuxedo, champagne flute in hand. "Mackenzie," my mother said, her voice low and irritated. "What are you doing here?" I stared at them, disbelief swirling. "What do you mean?" "It's your anniversary celebration." "I paid for it." My father glanced around, clearly worried about a scene. "We appreciate the financial contribution, but this is a family-only event." The words hit me like a physical blow. "I am family. I'm your daughter." "You know what we mean," my mother sighed impatiently. "This is for people who are actually involved in our lives. We didn't think you'd actually come. You're always working." My hand trembled as I held out the gift. "I bought you something special." My mother didn't even look. "You can send it later." This isn't a good time. Behind them, curious faces watched. My Aunt Catherine looked concerned. Heather whispered to her husband. Eric stared at the floor. "I don't understand," I choked out, my voice breaking. "I paid for this party. How can I not be welcome at it?" My father's expression hardened. He set his champagne glass down and gestured to a security guard. "Please remove this woman," he said coldly. "She's disturbing our private event." The guard looked uncomfortable, but stepped forward. "Ma'am, I'll have to ask you to leave." I couldn't believe it. "Dad, you can't be serious." His next words would burn in my memory forever. "Get this beggar out of here." Beggar. The word echoed in my head. The security guard gently but firmly took my elbow. I was too shocked to resist. As I was led to the elevator, dozens of eyes on my back, the beautiful gift box still clutched in my hand, I saw my mother return to the party, already laughing, as if her middle child hadn't just been publicly humiliated and ejected. The drive home was a blur. My vision tunneled. Beggar. My father's disgusted face replayed in my mind. I made it to my apartment in Queen Anne, a high-rise condo I'd bought 2 years ago, a personal milestone my family had never bothered to visit. In the parking garage, I turned off the engine and sat in silence. The expensive dress felt like a cage. My professional makeup, a mask. For minutes, I just breathed, trying to process. Then, the first sob broke free, startling me with its intensity. Then another and another until I was gasping, tears streaming, years of rejection crystallizing into this one devastating moment. My best friend, Jordan, called. "Hey, Mac, how's the fancy party? Are they treating you like the princess you are for once?" Her cheerful voice was a jarring contrast. "They kicked me out," I whispered, my voice raw. "What?" "The connection's bad. They had security remove me." I cried, a fresh sob punctuating the sentence. "Wait, what?" Jordan's shock was palpable. Where are you? Stay there. I'm coming over. 20 minutes tops. True to her word, Jordan arrived in record time. She found me still in my car, mascara streaked down my face. She opened the passenger door, moved the gift box, and pulled me into a fierce hug. Tell me everything, she demanded. And I did. The exclusion, my parents' cold dismissal, the security escort, the beggar comment. Jordan listened, her face shifting from shock to pure outrage. Those entitled, manipulative, soul-sucking vampires, she spat. Mac, this is beyond dysfunctional. This is abuse. They're my family, I said weakly, the default justification I'd used for years. No, Jordan said firmly. Family doesn't treat each other like ATMs. Family doesn't publicly humiliate each other. Family doesn't take and take and take without giving anything back. Up in my apartment, Jordan helped me out of the designer dress and into comfortable clothes, gently removed my ruined makeup. Then she poured us both huge glasses of wine and ordered Thai food. You know the worst part? I said, staring into my wine glass. I have records of everything I've ever given them. Every loan, every gift, every bill paid. It's literally my job. But I've never had the courage to add it all up. Maybe it's time, Jordan suggested quietly. I nodded, reaching for my laptop. I opened my personal finance software. A special category, family support. With a few clicks, I generated a report. The total made us both gasp. $327,845.38 over the past decade, I whispered. Oh my God, Mac, Jordan breathed. That's a house. That's multiple college educations. That's retirement savings. I scrolled through the itemized list, memories attached to each entry, Eric's failed businesses, Heather's wedding and home renovation, my parents' mortgage, medical bills, car payments, luxury vacations I wasn't invited on. And that doesn't even include tonight's deposit, I said hollowly. Something shifted inside me as I stared at that number. A quiet rage began to replace the hurt and confusion. I opened my credit card app. They're still using my card, I said in disbelief. Look at these charges from today. Additional catering, $4,500. Premium bar package, $3,200. Anniversary cake, $800. They didn't even tell me, I whispered. They just kept charging. On a hunch, I opened Instagram. Sure enough, Heather had already posted photos. One showed my parents cutting the elaborate cake I had unknowingly paid for. The caption, celebrating 40 years of the perfect love story with our tight-knit family. So blessed to have parents who taught us what unconditional love truly means. I scrolled. Eric presenting what looked like plane tickets. His caption, Alaska cruise for the anniversary couple. Can't wait to hear about your adventures. The cruise I had booked and paid for 3 months ago. Another photo, Heather's husband raising a toast to the wonderful family vacation they're hosting for all of us in Disneyland next month. The Disneyland trip I had arranged and funded as a surprise for my niece and nephew. They're taking credit for my gifts, I said, my voice strangely calm now. They're using my money to buy themselves adoration. Jordan looked at the phone, then at me. What are you going to do? I closed the laptop. The hurt was still there, but now it was crystallizing into something harder, more resolute. I'm done being their ATM. I slept surprisingly well that night, as if my body needed to process the trauma. When I woke, the events flooded back, but the overwhelming emotion had been replaced by determination. I showered, made coffee, and texted Chloe, my assistant. Need your help with something personal. Can you come by my apartment around 10? She replied immediately. Everything okay? It will be, I wrote back. While waiting, I created a new spreadsheet. Not just past transactions, but all current and future financial commitments. The $18,000 party deposit, $22,000 for the Alaska cruise, $9,000 for Heather's family Disney trip, a $15,000 business loan to Eric, an $8,000 country club membership renewal. Total current obligations, $62,000. That was more than many people made in a year. When Chloe arrived, her eyes widened at my appearance. What happened? I told her everything, my voice steady and factual. Even Chloe, who'd heard countless money calls, was shocked. That's beyond cruel, she said. What do you need? I need to know my legal position on these commitments, I said, showing her the spreadsheet. What can I cancel? What am I legally obligated to follow through on? Chloe, efficient as always, called a lawyer friend specializing in family law. The lawyer advised that the deposit for the already occurred event was gone, but future reservations made with my credit card could be canceled, especially without written agreements. The business loan could be recalled if the funds hadn't been used, and there was no formal agreement. None of it was documented, I said. That was by design. They always kept things verbal. After the call, Chloe looked at me. What's the plan, boss? I'm going to cancel everything, I said firmly. Every reservation, every payment, every future commitment. And I'm going to document exactly how much I've given them. So when they inevitably come asking for more, I have a clear record to show. They'll be furious, Chloe warned. I know, I said quietly. But I can't keep doing this. Last night made it clear that no amount of money will ever buy their love or respect. I've been trying to purchase a place in their family that they have no intention of giving me. Together, we expanded the spreadsheet. Historical transactions categorized. Estimated lost investment returns. The final document was staggering. Over $320,000 in direct payments. Nearly $80,000 in lost investment returns. Over $400,000 total. I could have bought a vacation home, I whispered. I could have funded an entire charitable foundation. You still can, Chloe reminded me. Once you stop the bleeding. We set up email notifications for the cancellations. I knew the fallout would be swift and severe. Are you ready for their reaction? Chloe asked. I hesitated. For a moment, the familiar. Guilt and obligation surfaced. My mother's tears, my father's anger, my siblings' accusations. The family bonds, however dysfunctional, that had defined my life. Then I remembered standing in that restaurant lobby, the security guard's grip on my elbow, my father's voice. Get this beggar out of here. Yes, I said, my resolve hardening. I'm ready. Monday morning arrived with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. My first call was to Lame. I'd like to discuss the charges to my credit card from last night's event. The event manager sounded cautious. The final bill came to $23,475. I did not authorize those additional charges, I said calmly. I approved only the initial $18,000 deposit. Furthermore, I was refused entry to the event despite funding it. I want the additional charges canceled immediately and the remainder of the bill sent to Richard and Elizabeth Morgan directly. And the deposit, she asked. Please redirect the deposit as an anonymous donation to Seattle Children's Hospital. She sounded surprised, then pleased. Yes, we can definitely do that. Next, the cruise line. I need to cancel reservation AC 789542, the Alaska Glaciers Deluxe Package for 2. There was a cancellation fee. That's fine, I replied. And should we notify the travelers? No, I said. I'll handle that personally. The Disney trip cancellation was harder. I pictured my niece and nephew. They were innocent. I made a mental note to send them gift cards for their birthdays. Eric's business loan. I contacted my bank and froze the funds. The country club membership. A simple call. I won't be renewing the Morgan family membership this year. They'll be disappointed, the director noted. I'm sure they will, I replied, feeling nothing. By noon, all cancellations were processed. I drafted an automated reply for my family's numbers. Financial services permanently discontinued. All inquiries will be directed to this automated response. I scheduled it to activate at 5 p.m., giving organizations time to notify them. Then I temporarily blocked their numbers. I wanted to see their reactions, but I needed a buffer. That evening, Jordan came over with takeout and wine. It's done, I told her, sitting on my balcony overlooking the Seattle skyline. Everything's canceled. How do you feel? She asked. I considered carefully. Lighter. Like I've put down a burden I've been carrying so long, I forgot what it felt like not to have it weighing me down. Any regrets? Not about the money, I said honestly. But I'm sad about what this reveals. That after all these years, all these sacrifices, they never really saw me as family, just as a resource. Jordan raised her glass. To your Independence Day. We clinked glasses. To boundaries. We were halfway through dinner when my phone began to vibrate continuously. Missed call from Mom. Missed call from Dad. Text from Eric. What the hell is going on with the business account? Text from Heather. The Disney reservation is showing as canceled. Fix this now. The notifications kept coming, increasing in frequency and urgency. Within 20 minutes, I had 36 missed calls. Wow, Jordan said, watching the phone nearly vibrate off the table. That didn't take long. I felt strangely calm. They must have all found out at once. Are you going to respond? Jordan asked. I shook my head. Not tonight. They need to sit with this feeling for a while. The feeling of having something they were counting on suddenly pulled away without explanation. Jordan gave me a look of admiration. You're handling this like a boss. I am a boss, I replied, the first genuine smile I'd felt in days. It's about time I remembered that. The pounding on my door started at 7 a.m. The aggressive knocking jolted me awake. Mackenzie, open this door right now. My father's commanding voice. We know you're in there. My mother, shrill with indignation. I slipped on a robe and looked through the peephole. My parents, Heather, and Eric were all crowded in the hallway, faces contorted with anger. My father's complexion was a dangerous red. I took a deep breath and opened the door. What is the meaning of this? My father demanded, pushing past me without an invitation. The others followed, forming a semicircle of fury in my living room. Good morning to you too, I said calmly, closing the door. I see you all got my messages. Messages? Heather shrieked. You canceled our Disney vacation without a word. Jackson and Emma have been looking forward to this for months. The cruise line called us, my mother added, her voice trembling with what I now recognized as manufactured emotion. Our anniversary cruise was canceled. We'll be humiliated in front of our friends. We already announced it at the party. Eric stepped forward, his face twisted with self-righteous anger. You froze the business account. I have suppliers waiting for payment. You've destroyed my reputation. My father's voice cut through the cacophony. Fix this now. Whatever game you're playing stops immediately. They stared at me expectantly, confident in their collective ability to bring me back in line. In the past, it would have worked. The guilt, the obligation, the desperate need for approval would have had me reaching for my phone. But something had fundamentally changed. No, I said simply. The single word landed like a bomb. There was a moment of stunned silence before they all started talking at once again, voices rising in pitch and volume. You're clearly having some kind of breakdown, my mother declared. This is why you're always alone, Heather snapped. You're unstable. I'll sue you. Eric threatened. That money was promised to me. My father stepped close, trying to intimidate me as he had when I was a child. You will fix this mess right now or you're no longer part of this family. I laughed then. A genuine laugh that stopped their tirade. Not part of the family? When was I ever part of the family? When you needed your mortgage paid. When Eric needed another failed business funded. When Heather wanted a fairy tale wedding. That's not family. That's exploitation. I walked to my desk and picked up the printed spreadsheet Chloe and I had prepared. In the past 10 years, I have given this family $327,845.38. That doesn't include the additional $62,000 in current commitments I just canceled. I handed the document to my father. Everything is itemized there. Every payment, every gift, every loan that was never repaid, plus the calculated interest and opportunity cost. They stared at the paper, momentarily silenced by the staggering figure. We're your family, my mother finally said, as if that explained and excused everything. Family doesn't have security remove me from an event I paid for, I replied evenly. Family doesn't call me a beggar. My father's head snapped up. You're being oversensitive. It was a misunderstanding. I walked to my phone and played the recording I'd made in my car. My voice, tearfully recounting exactly what had happened. Get this beggar out of here. My father's voice, perfectly captured. Heather, at least, had the decency to look uncomfortable. Eric studied his shoes. My mother's expression hardened. You're taking things out of context, she insisted. Your father was upset. You're right, I agreed. I have been taking things out of context for years. I've been interpreting financial exploitation as love. I've been mistaking my usefulness for belonging. That stops now. So what? You're just cutting us off, Eric demanded. After everything we've done for you? I turned to him, genuinely curious. What exactly have you done for me, Eric? He opened his mouth, then closed it again, unable to cite a single example. This is how it's going to be, I said, addressing all of them. I will no longer provide financial support of any kind to any of you. No loans, no gifts, no payments. You are all adults with jobs, homes, and resources. Figure it out. You'll change your mind, my father said dismissively. You always do. Not this time, I replied. This time, I have something worth more than your approval, my self-respect. You're being selfish, my mother accused. After all we've sacrificed for you. What sacrifices, Mom? Please enlighten me. When did any of you ever put me first? When did you ever show up for me when I needed emotional support, not just to collect a check? The silence was damning. You need help, Heather finally said. Professional help. On that, we agree, I replied. I started therapy last week. My therapist has a term for what's been happening, financial abuse. That's ridiculous. My father scoffed. You're the one cutting off your family when we need you. Need my money, I corrected. Not me. Never me. The conversation devolved from there. Threats were made. Tears were shed. My character, mental health, and moral fiber were all called into question. I remained calm, repeating my position clearly each time they tried to find a crack in my resolve. After nearly an hour of emotional battering, they finally realized I wasn't going to cave. This isn't over, my father declared as they moved toward the door. You'll regret this decision. I already regret the past 10 years, I replied honestly. But I won't regret today. As they filed out, my mother turned back with one final attempt. What will people think when they hear how you've abandoned your family? I don't know, Mom, I said. What did they think when they watched you have security escort me out of a party I paid for? She had no answer. After they left, I leaned against the closed door, expecting to feel devastated. Instead, I felt strangely peaceful. The confrontation had been ugly but necessary. The threats and manipulation that had worked so effectively in the past now seemed transparent and pathetic. My phone pinged. I braced myself for more drama, but it was from my cousin Rebecca. I saw what they did to you at the party. It was cruel and wrong. I wanted to say something but was too cowardly. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. It was the first genuine expression of support I'd received from any family member. I texted back, thank you. That means a lot. Perhaps I wasn't completely alone in the extended family after all. It was a small comfort, but real. And reality, however painful, was better than the illusion I'd been living in for so long. 6 months passed like a dream. Fall arrived in Seattle, painting the city in rich oranges and reds. The crisp air felt like a metaphor for the clarity I'd found. The immediate aftermath had been challenging. My family tried various approaches, my father demanding repayment for raising me, my mother's tearful voicemails about mysteriously resolved medical issues, Eric claiming his business was failing because of me, Heather sending guilt-inducing photos of her disappointed children. I maintained my boundaries, focusing instead on my own healing journey. Dr. Melissa Chin, my therapist, had been instrumental. Our weekly sessions helped me unpack decades of emotional manipulation. Your role as the provider was established early and reinforced consistently, she explained. Breaking free requires not just setting boundaries, but maintaining them through the inevitable pushback. The pushback had indeed been fierce. Flying monkeys, distant relatives, and family friends called, urging me to reconcile. I politely but firmly ended these conversations, refusing to justify myself to people who had watched the exploitation for years without comment. My professional life flourished. I expanded my client base, hired 2 new advisors, and was featured in a financial magazine. New friendships blossomed too. Through a support group for survivors of family financial abuse, I met Alana, Desiree, and Thomas, who understood my experience in ways even Jordan couldn't. Our monthly dinners became a safe space. As October arrived, I faced my first holiday season with new boundaries. Thanksgiving had always been a fraught occasion, elaborate celebrations I was expected to fund but never truly welcomed into. This year would be different. "I'm hosting Friendsgiving," I announced to Jordan. "Try and stop me," she grinned. I invited the support group crew, colleagues, Chloe and her husband, and Rebecca. She shared that my parents had spent years controlling the family narrative about me, painting me as cold and work-obsessed. My public disinheritance, as they characterized it, had created fissures in the extended family. Rebecca and her husband wanted to come. Even my Aunt Catherine, my mom's sister, might. "Apparently, she and Mom aren't speaking anymore," I told Jordan. Catherine called her out about what happened at the anniversary party. Friendsgiving was a revelation. 16 people gathered in my apartment, none demanding anything from me except conversation and connection. Rebecca brought homemade pumpkin pie and a decade of family gossip I'd been excluded from. Aunt Catherine arrived with an envelope. "I should have given you this years ago," she said privately. "Your grandmother asked me to pass it along after she died, but your mother convinced me to wait until you were more stable." She made air quotes around the last words, her disgust with the manipulation evident. Inside was a letter and a bank statement. "My dearest Mackenzie," my grandmother had written, "you have always been special to me, your intelligence, your kindness, your resilience. I see how your parents failed to appreciate these qualities, too blinded by their own needs to recognize your worth. I am leaving you this separate inheritance directly. Your mother doesn't know about it. Use it to build the life you deserve, not the ones they demand from you. I was waiting for you to stand up for yourself. When you do, Catherine will give you this letter. I have faith that day will come. All my love, Grandma Eleanor." The bank statement showed a trust in my name worth $175,000, accumulating interest for 7 years. "She knew," I whispered to Catherine. "She saw what was happening." "Eleanor was nobody's fool," Catherine replied. "She saw everything clearly, including your strength. She knew you'd break free eventually." News about my family trickled in through Rebecca and other channels. Without my financial support, certain realities had come crashing down. My parents had been forced to downsize. Eric's latest business venture had failed spectacularly. Heather and her husband had canceled their kitchen renovation plans. There were consequences for me, too. I was officially disowned. My name allegedly removed from their wills. Strangely, these developments caused me less pain than I had anticipated. The family I had desperately tried to buy my way into had never really existed. The love I had sought had always been conditional, based on what I could provide rather than who I was. In December, I received an unexpected message from my father. Unlike the angry demands, this one was brief and subdued. "Your mother and I are having coffee at Westlake Center tomorrow at 2. If you're available, we'd like to talk." I discussed it with Dr. Chin. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "Part of me is curious," I admitted. "Another part is afraid they'll try to pull me back in." "Those are both valid feelings," she nodded. "What boundaries would you need to make this meeting feel safe?" I considered carefully. Public place, limited time, no financial discussions. "Those sound like healthy boundaries," she said. "Remember, you can leave at any time if they're not respected." I agreed to the meeting with clear parameters. 30 minutes, no discussion of money, public location only. My parents looked older when I saw them. My father's confident posture was diminished. My mother's designer clothes replaced by more modest attire. For a moment, I felt the old pull of guilt and responsibility. But I breathed through it, as Dr. Chin had taught me. "Thank you for coming," my father said, uncharacteristically subdued. The conversation was stilted and superficial. Weather, current events, careful avoidance of anything meaningful. Finally, as our agreed-upon time neared its end, my mother reached across the table. "We miss you, Mackenzie." I met her eyes directly. "Do you miss me or what I provided?" She withdrew her hand. My father cleared his throat. "We've had to make some adjustments," he acknowledged. "It's been challenging." "I imagine it has," I said neutrally. "Your sister's children ask about you," my mother added. "Especially at Christmas." I thought about Jackson and Emma, innocent in the adult drama. "They can call me anytime. They're welcome in my home." Without their parents, my mother's tone sharpened. My boundaries haven't changed, I replied calmly. I'm open to rebuilding relationships, but not financial relationships. They exchanged glances, a familiar silent communication that had always excluded me. My father sighed. We should go, he said to my mother. To me, think about what family really means, Mackenzie. I smiled slightly. I have. Every day for the past 6 months. As they walked away, I realized something profound. Their power over me was gone. Not just financially, but emotionally. Their approval, so desperately sought for decades, no longer determined my worth. That evening, I hosted a holiday party in my apartment. Friends, colleagues, my growing circle of chosen family gathered to celebrate. Chloe brought her new baby. Jordan announced her engagement. Thomas from the support group shared he'd finally sold his novel. As I looked around at these people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide, I felt my grandmother's presence. She had seen this day coming. She had believed in my strength when I couldn't see it myself. The inheritance she'd left me remained largely untouched. I had established a small foundation with a portion of it, providing educational grants to young people estranged from family support systems. The rest waited for a purpose worthy of her faith in me. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. Proud of you for today. Boundaries intact. Eleanor would be beaming. I smiled and rejoined my guests. The apartment was warm with conversation and laughter, decorated with lights that reflected in the windows overlooking the Seattle skyline. This was what real family felt like. Chosen, reciprocal, unconditional. The journey hadn't been easy. There would be more challenges ahead, more boundary tests, more moments of doubt. But I had found something more valuable than approval, more enduring than the false security of dysfunctional bonds. I had found myself. If you've ever had to set difficult boundaries with people who saw you as an ATM rather than a person, you know this feeling. Remember, your worth isn't measured by what you provide others. It's inherent in who you are. Thank you for being part of this journey with me.